This will soon be the tallest building in the City of London, a £1 billion plus skyscraper rising 309.6 metres into the sky, exactly matching the height of the Shard. The site sits near the junction of Leadenhall Street and St Mary Axe, between the Gherkin and the Leadenhall building, where a 1969 tower is currently being torn down floor by floor to make way for it. This is one Undershaft, and it's about to become one of the most ambitious office megaprojects Britain has ever attempted. But this project has been anything but straightforward. It's taken almost a decade of planning battles, 3 major concepts for the site, and a prospective investor deciding not to exercise its option to acquire a stake before this tower ever got the green light. So, how did a single city plot become one of the most drawn-out skyscraper sagas in London's history? The story starts back in 2003, when British-Syrian developer Simon Halabi bought the site, then home to the Commercial Union Building, a 118-metre Miesian tower completed in 1969. Halabi commissioned an early replacement concept from Avery Associates in 2010, but his finances collapsed shortly after, and by 2011, the tower was sold for £288.25 million to a consortium of Far Eastern investors who would eventually become Ireland Holdings. Parry Architects won planning consent for a 305-metre tower in November 2016, a design nicknamed the Trellis, for its striking bronze cross-bracing on the exterior. Shortly after that approval, Singapore-based Perennial Real Estate Holdings agreed a call option to buy a 20% stake in the site, valuing the future tower at £330 million. If you've enjoyed the video so far, we'd really appreciate it if you subscribed to the channel. Now, back to the story. In 2019, Perennial allowed its option to acquire a 20% stake to lapse, citing uncertainty over when construction would actually start. The consented trellis scheme was eventually shelved, and Parry Architects returned with the third major concept proposed for the site. In August 2023, a new design was revealed. A much broader tower composed of vertically articulated sections, with terraces carved into its facade. It was wider at the base and taller than before. 8 years after the original scheme received consent, the city approved the substantially redesigned tower in December 2024. So what exactly is being built? The tower will stand 309.6 metres tall across 74 stories, making it the joint tallest building in the United Kingdom and Western Europe alongside the Shard. It'll contain approximately 154,000 square metres of commercial space, a 30% increase on the previous scheme and nearly triple the size of the tower it's replacing. At the very top, floors 72 and 73 will hold Europe's highest publicly accessible viewing gallery, taking that title away from Horizon 22 at 22 Bishopsgate, alongside education space curated by the London Museum. Unlike the Shard's paid viewing attraction, the gallery at One London is planned to be free, putting it in the same category as free city viewing attractions such as Sky Garden and Horizon 22. There's also a public garden planned for the 11th floor, and at street level, a brand new public square called Undershaft Square, designed with forest-inspired landscaping to soften one of the densest financial districts on Earth. Taken together, the building isn't just chasing height. It's trying to weave genuine public space into a plot that has historically been sealed off behind private office lobbies. One detail that surprises a lot of people is why the tower stops at exactly 309.6 meters instead of going higher. It isn't a structural limit. The height is governed by London's aviation safeguarding limits, which restrict how far major towers in this location can extend into protected airspace. So, rather than compete on raw height, Parry's design leans into mass and presence instead. A wide, tapering block clad in materials that catch light differently across the day, designed to hold its own visually against both the Gherkin's curves and the Leadenhall building's angular slope right next door. The redesign also faced resistance over what it would do at street level. In July 2024, city planners deferred the application after objections focused on the loss of open space around St Helens Square. Historic and neighbouring organisations also raised concerns about nearby listed buildings and views toward the Tower of London. The development team reduced the tower's footprint at ground level and revised the public realm before the scheme returned and secured approval in December. Before a single new column can go up, the existing tower has to come down completely, and that demolition alone is historic in its own right. The old building, at 118 metres, is the largest tower demolition ever undertaken in the square mile. Contractor Keltbray has been on site carrying out strip-out and demolition work, floor by floor, stripping materials for reuse and recycling wherever possible before the structure is fully dismantled. It's a slow, deliberate process, partly because demolishing a tower of that scale safely in the middle of London's financial district, surrounded by other occupied skyscrapers, leaves almost no room for error. Cranes, cladding, and structural steel all have to come off in careful stages, with the site boxed in by live streets, active office towers, and some of the most expensive real estate per square foot in Europe. The project arrives during another major expansion of the City of London skyline. Towers such as the Gherkin, the Leadenhall Building, and 22 Bishopsgate have already transformed the Eastern City cluster, but none approaches the 309.6-metre height, now planned for one Undershaft. It will also shift London's visual balance, giving the city a tower equal in height to the Shard for the first time. Now let's talk about who's actually paying for all of this. The project is being developed by Ireland Holdings, a consortium backed by Southeast Asian investors, with Singapore-based Perennial Holdings acting as advisor and Stanhope serving as development manager. Businessman Kuok Koon Hong is one of the key figures behind Roland, although the consortium also includes other investors. The latest project announcement says the tower will cost more than £1 billion to deliver. That kind of money is being committed at a genuinely uncertain moment for London's office market. The City of London Corporation has set a long-term target of delivering at least 1.2 million square metres, or roughly 13 million square feet, of additional office space by 2040, driven partly by a flight to quality, as occupiers move from older, less efficient buildings into modern Grade A space. Recent leasing data backs that up. Newly built and comprehensively refurbished offices now account for the large majority of lettings in the city, even though they make up a much smaller share of overall stock. At the same time, hybrid working has softened demand for weaker, older office buildings, leaving some at risk of becoming what analysts call stranded assets. One London is a direct bet that the city's appetite for genuinely best-in-class towers will keep outpacing that broader slowdown, though nothing about that outcome is guaranteed. So, where does that leave the timeline? Planning permission was first secured for the earlier Trellis design back in November 2016. That scheme was abandoned after Perennial's option lapsed in 2019. A new, substantially redesigned tower was unveiled in August 2023, deferred by planners in July 2024, revised and finally approved in December 2024. Deconstruction work began in 2025 and remains underway. As of the most recent updates, the project has been rebranded from One Undershaft to One London, with full construction targeted to begin in 2028 and completion now scheduled for 2033. Even by the slow standards of major London towers, a journey stretching from the first 2016 consent to a planned 2033 completion is exceptionally long. That gap between first approval and first concrete pour says something bigger about building in central London today. Even with private money ready and a site sandwiched between two of the city's most recognizable landmarks, it still took the better part of 2 decades to get from an idea to a foundation. 3 major designs, 2 architectural practices, an unexercised investment option, and a global pandemic all had to be absorbed before a single new pile could go into the ground. For a skyscraper that will eventually offer the highest public viewing platform in Europe, the view from the top might end up being the easiest part of this entire project.